You got budgets, you got meetings, you got strategy stuff, you got all these leadership things. In IT management, that's sort of like your bread and butter. You got to know how to do that stuff. If you're not good at doing that stuff, you're not going to be a good IT manager. An IT manager is no longer just a tech. It's no longer somebody that's just fixing a computer here or there. They're now thinking big picture. They're now making sure that the business is going in this direction and technology is enabling the business to go in that direction. That the business and tech are not fighting. They need to be working together. They're a collaborative instrument, right? They can't work in opposition. Otherwise, the thing's just not going to work very, very well. And then you got all the money stuff. You got to make sure that this is done well, that you're paying what you should be paying, that you're keeping track of how much you're spending on software, on hardware, on services, on security, on developing new stuff, on projects. There's a whole lot. Going to give you a little, like the video, we're going to give you a little bit of a snippet of some ideas, but really you're going to need to customize this, of course, to each and every single environment. It's going to be a great video, going to give you some good tips. Hey, subscribe, do the subscription thing, click on the bell as well so that you don't miss out on anything. Let's now start talking about the fun stuff.
All right, so all of the IT systems, the processes, the software, the hardware, all of this sort of stuff, at some point needs to be replaced, needs to be upgraded. There are software packages perhaps that you are running that in the future may actually not give you the right end result. They may not be able to do what the customer or what your end user wants it to be able to do. So you may need to look into better alternates, better solutions out there. So here's a great thing, is you as the IT manager, as somebody who is responsible for all the IT landscape, of course you're responsible for BAU, business as usual. Keep the lights on, keep all the systems running, updated, secure, patched, all that sort of stuff. That's great. Now you start designing your IT roadmap, your IT strategy. What do you want the next 12, 24, 5 years to look like? The next 12, 24 months is generally where you'd start, but then even think longer term, 5 years, 10 years down the track. What could you be putting in place right now, or at least start having a think about putting in place where you can then propel the IT system, the IT process, the IT foundation to help the business to get to where it is now, to where it needs to be down the track. Now, this is an area, again, that will be very, very rewarding for the IT manager. Because if you put a good system in place and you implement something that brings more cash into the business, your staff can now do their work quicker. The organization grows because you can now get more staff to do better, bigger things. That's a good thing for you. Well done, IT manager. If it wasn't for you, if you did not recommend this great new system, if you didn't work with us to project manage it and get it across the line, we would not be doing what we're doing right now. Have a look at everything that you've got running right now and have a think about what you could be doing in the future. Let's go and show you an example roadmap that I have made right now, where I essentially show you a little bit around some of the items that you can be listing inside the roadmap to then create a nice presentation that you could then show to a director, to a board, to a CEO, so that you can then try and get something across the line. Here's an example of what a roadmap could look like. So you'll see that right here, we've got a number of different sorts of categories. We've got a hash here, which is essentially the number, essentially the category. You'll see that there is a category column right here. And I've broken this down into operations, into infrastructure, security and compliance, governance, process, and management. And of course, you can have other subcategories in here, or even break down security into one, compliance into another. But I found that these are the categories that sort of will fit most of the items that we want to include within our roadmap. Now, this particular document is a roadmap, not necessarily a strategy, but a roadmap for 1 to 2 years perhaps. And you've also got here the item listed. So here's an example of one of the items that we've got. We're going to call it an upgrade to our file server. An overview of that is, well, this is what it's going to be about. So what are we actually doing? So an upgrade to a file server could be, we've got a legacy Windows Server 2008 R2 file server, and we want to look at upgrading that. Perhaps we want to move over to a NAS. Perhaps we just want to upgrade to a new file server that is running Windows Server 2019 or something different. So it just gives you a bit of an overview and a current state around what that item specifically is. Then of course you want to have a rationale and a risk. So you're going to be presenting this potentially to people who are the decision makers, people who are going to give you the funds and the approval to actually go and implement the upgrade to file server item. So you want to put into here your explanation, your negotiation, your rationale as to why you need to get this and what risks there are. So I've said here, what is the current risk or the risk if we don't do it? So is there right now a risk if we don't upgrade the file server, or is there a risk in the future if we don't upgrade the file server? So it's always a good point right here, and you can make this quite detailed, essentially explaining the reasons why you need to do it and the risk associated with it if you don't do it. Then a recommendation is what you actually want to do. So here's an overview of what the situation is, and then what do you now want to go do. So if we said, for example, we want to go and implement a brand new NAS, you may say on here, I want to go and buy myself a Dell EMC NAS with this much hard drive space, and this is what I want to go and implement. Okay, it doesn't have to be very, very detailed. Then the importance, so where do you rank this particular item? So generally you could do a low, medium, high, even a critical of importance. What is the effort involved? So how long, what is the effort? How many staff do you need? How much effort do you actually need to implement this? Is it very high? Is it low, medium, low? And estimate on the cost. When are you planning on doing it? So these are complete estimates in my opinion. Now, again, this is a roadmap. This is just something that you'll present to somebody. Then if they go and say, yes, we want to go and implement the upgrade to the file server, then your next step may be to go and actually do an actual project plan. So if it's something larger, like you want to implement a brand new system that's going to change elements of how the business operates, then this is just the high level overview of what needs to be done. But then you want to go and do a project plan that will give you a bit more of an estimate around the cost, because you're now going to go out, because you've got approval, you're going to go out, you're going to get the quotes, you're going to get different opinions. You may, deal with particular consultants or vendors to give you the cost. And then you may be working with other people, and around your overall schedule for everything else, you may want to implement this in Q2, in this case 2020. Then you've got the current state. So is it currently in progress? Is it not commenced? Is it delayed? This is the state of that particular item. Of course, if it's a brand new item, it's never even been identified with the people who need to see this, it may be not commenced. And then you may want to provide them updates from time to time where the status will change from not commenced to in progress. The approval state, has it been approved? Has it not been approved? If it's been approved, good on you. You can then progress into the next steps. And then some additional comments, perhaps a current status and the plans. Now, this is, again, as I said, a complete example of what I like to use, or a scenario that I like to use around a roadmap. You can, of course, go and cater this and customize this the way that you want to. You can change the names of these, the columns themselves. You can add, you can remove some of these. And then what I would even say is then you can actually then provide snapshots of how this is going. Perhaps every couple of months or every month, you maybe want to give an update on what's going on. So you can actually go and do a snapshot of this, and perhaps even break it down into just items that are part of a quarter, as opposed to a full overview of everything. So you may just want to do a quarter 2 2020. This is everything that I want to do in quarter 2 2020, because you may not want to just overwhelm people with a list of 100 items on here. Most people that are in certain senior positions won't have the time to be able to go and look through this. So sometimes giving them a snapshot on what's going on is also good. And that's where a sort of a strategy report may also come in helpful, where you can actually go and pick and choose some of the ones that are relevant, the ones that you want them to go and see, and then you just throw them into like a strategy update report, for example, that you then go and present to them. Okay, so that is what our roadmap looks like. So the roadmap is something that is pretty essential in my opinion. I find it always very, very helpful that when I come into a new business, let's say if I start working for a new customer, I want to get a good understanding. I want to essentially do a full audit of the setup that I've got right now, find all the areas that could be improved, and then draw up a roadmap and say, look, you're running these systems right now. You're running these bespoke apps. You're running these apps that were custom built for you. Support is not very good. They're not patched. They're not updated. They're slow. They're old fashioned. Hey, why don't we look at setting you up with a new ERP system? Why don't we set you up with a new CRM system? You're running a really dodgy website. Why don't we look at refreshing your entire website to something that is smashing, something that looks so much better, something that is appealing to the eye, where your customers will see it and they'll want to go and buy a product from you. And then you've got a strategy where perhaps like what I have found is some places, they don't want a full detailed roadmap with like 100 items on there. Rather, they want a condensed version of a strategy around where you want to take the IT team. And you could summarize some of the key items in a roadmap into a strategy that is presented to a board of directors, to a senior leadership team, whatever it may be, to the CEO, where you say, here is my IT strategy. Over the next 12 months, this is all the stuff that I want to do. If you're not doing this, if you're watching this and you are already in management and you're not doing roadmaps and strategies and sort of presenting this to the powers that be to get stuff done, to get things upgraded, giving justification for why, risks for why you should fix that now because you've got a risk if you don't, do it. If you're not doing it, do it now. Let's talk about money in this video, something that is very, very near and dear to all of us. If you don't have an IT budget, then it's very, very hard for you to get things across the line, for you to purchase things, for you to upgrade certain systems. It may be hard for you to get approvals to do certain things because it hasn't been budgeted for in the next financial year. So you need to understand a little bit around how IT budgets are going to be structured and what you need to be putting in the IT budget. And then you will work, the IT manager will work very, very closely with the finance team generally, but also with your direct manager, a director, a CTO, a CIO, a CFO, a CEO, and you then get that approved. They go, yep, cool, we've now added that into the budget, it's been approved. So then you now know that for the next 12 months, which is generally the span of a budget, financial year to financial year, so mid-year to mid-year, and everything that's in there, hey, if it's been approved, great, you now have a bit more freedom to be able to say, look, I need to go and buy these 15 new laptops. And they're going to say, well, was it in the IT budget? Yes, it was. Here it is. Great, go ahead. Versus you saying, look, I need to go and upgrade the SAN. The SAN is now run out of warranty. I need to go and spend 10 grand on a new SAN. Was it in the IT budget? Oh, no, I forgot to put it in there. Bit hard when the budgets have been done already. The finance team have already gone and submitted the budgets. It'll be very hard for you to make a case to say, I need the money now. So it's always good to form your IT budget and think over the next 12 months. Think about in the next 12 months, this is all the stuff that I want. This is all the stuff that I don't have right now that I want, the stuff that I need, the stuff that we need to operate, so the BAU stuff, as well as all the wish list stuff, the stuff that would be good for us to have and the reasons why you want that. An IT budget, generally, this is the way that I would do it anyway, is broken down into an OPEX and a CAPEX. So your ongoing stuff, your capital, right? Two different sections, categorized accordingly, the price, the quantity, when you want to get it done, and a little bit of an explanation as to what it is, and that generally will be okay. And it's not uncommon that once you submit an IT budget, for you then to have a sit down with your finance team or with your manager to go through potentially line by line on the budget to try to justify and explain why these sort of things need to be in here. Some of them may be just as simple as saying, well, look, 10 of our laptops are going to be now 5 years old in the next financial year. We need to replace them because it's good practice to replace your laptops every 3 to 5 years. Great, done. Versus, hey, I need a new SAN. That's going to be a little bit more hard to sort of justify. So you need to explain why that needs to be purchased in there. If you have a wish list of things that you don't have right now in the budget, it should be included in there. All right, so let's now show you a budget. Now I have put a budget in the description area in this course, at least a draft to sort of show you, maybe it's useful for you, a template on what a budget looks like. But now let's just show you roughly what this budget may look like and discuss some of the little areas within there. Here's an exported copy of a template for the IT budget. Now, this is completely customizable, and of course you want to make this your own. I'm just giving you a bit of a big overview of essentially some of the items that you could include and some of the columns that you may include into here. Now, very, very simply at the very top, you'll see that it's called IT budget, and it's got the year. Of course, it depends on the organization, whether you do financial year to financial year or whether you do a January to December. But essentially, generally an IT budget would cover a 12-month period. And then I like to have a column for the updated date. So when was the last time that this budget was updated? Now, as I mentioned before, I generally try to keep the IT budget up to date wherever possible. And then you would then work with the finance team, of course, to make sure that all of the items in here are correct. The finance team may go and add additional columns, may change some figures, may ask you about certain things so you can go and change it. But all in short, I've got the activity at the very top left, the type, the cost, the quantity, the total, and the note. So the activity is, well, what is this particular item? Now you will notice, firstly, before we go into the activity and all the specifics, I've broken this down into OPEX and CAPEX. Go and familiarize yourself with what these are, but essentially it's your operations and then your capital. So the ongoing expenses and anything new that you want to go purchase that may not be part of ongoing operations. So just go and understand those two terms because it is important to know, especially when you are dealing with the budgets and you are working with a finance team to sort of understand which category some of these items may fall into. But the activity, as I said, is breaking down all the items that we want to be including within our IT budget. All right, so under the OPEX area, I've got things such as my software subscriptions, which are ongoing subscriptions, potentially have to pay every month, every year. Then I've got my capacity, my maintenance, so things that I just need to do as part of my ongoing maintenance for my IT systems. Anything I need to upgrade, anything that I want to just make sure around the health of those systems as well. Printing, photocopying, telecommunications, consultant fees, vendors, and support. Now this is very, very basic. Now, budgets that I've worked with can have hundreds of lines in here. So this is just a very basic snapshot. You of course need to make sure that every single item that is part of your IT environment is captured in here. You don't want to get to a point where you need to buy something and it's not included in the budget. So have a think about every single item, make sure that it's all listed in here. Okay. Then under my CapEx, I've got things such as, well, I want to purchase some new servers, some new networks, some new storage devices, some new laptops, some new desktops, and other miscellaneous hardware purchases, hardware and software for new staff, etc. The type here is, well, what does it fit into a particular category? So software, is it software category? Is it hardware? Is it print? Is it contracts, such as, agreements that you've got in place, ongoing contracts, agreements with vendors, third parties, consulting fees. So anything that's, perhaps you want to go and get a consultant in. So I've put in here, I want to get a security consultant in for 6 days at a rate of $1,500 per day, for example, for 6 days, and that's the total cost. And then, other things such as vendor support, things like that. So I've got the type and the cost, of course, how much is that particular one item going to cost you? And then the quantity. So how many instances of that, item do I need to be purchasing? All right. So for example, IT ticketing system. Well, I know that costs me $400 per month. So i.e. it's going to be 12 months worth. So 12 instances for 400 equals 4,800. And that's a total cost for that particular item for the entire IT budget year, the financial year expenditure. Similar with Veeam for my backups for Office 365, I've got 12, so I pay monthly at $300. Now, MSDN license, well, I only need to buy that up front once off. For example, I may only need it for that 1 year. So I only need 5 instances of that because I need it only for 5 staff, and that's at $1,200 per staff member. PRTG, which is for monitoring, well, that's just a once-off purchase that I only need it for $650, and then I may not need it again, but it may need to be included in my next year's budget, so I will re-add it into there. And of course, you add items as you need to, you remove items as you need to. An example is, for example, if your budgets are due perhaps they're due in February, April or May, for the end of June, that they become effective, say July, you want to start thinking about the next year's budget well ahead of time. So I would recommend for any IT person that is managing this, try to have your budgets ready around the December, January time so that you can then start working with your finance team to make sure that the budgets all get approved, because it's very common for budgets to need director approval or even board approval for the particular figures that are included in here. So that's then the totaling a little sum of the 12 multiplied by the cost. And then notes, if you need additional notes in here. I like to include my notes in here so that if I'm working with the finance team, they know straight away what this is about. It just saves them having to come to me to ask exactly what that is. So SAN storage disk, they may not have any idea what that actually even means. So I've just put a little note saying, well, this is hard drives for my SAN. I'm going to need 40 new hard drives at $320 each because my company is going to grow, so I need more additional capacity, and that's the cost associated with that. Okay, so try to add as much information that is relevant so that you don't get asked any questions. And then my total OPEX, there is my total figure, which is just an addition of everything that's in my totals. And then we move into my CapEx. So for example, I've put in here, I want at least $200,000 worth in my budget for additional servers, network, and storage devices that I want to be buying in the next financial year. I'm going to want new servers for growth, and that's what that is there for. I potentially will need 100 new laptops in the next financial year because I've got a whole bunch of laptops that are now older than 3 or 5 years, so I want to replace them. All right, and I've done that similarly with desktops, with monitors. Do I need any tablets? Do I need any iPads or any Android tablets? Well, I'm looking at purchasing 40 of those in the next financial year for roughly around $1,000. Now, these figures don't have to be exact. All right, my general recommendation is just put a little bit above what the actual figure is, because it's very rare that a laptop will cost exactly $2,500. A laptop could cost $2,250. You may want a laptop then that costs $2,700. If it's, say, for a director that needs something a little bit more powerful. A desktop may not cost $2,500. You may only pick up a laptop for $1,000, a desktop for $1,000. But some, perhaps your graphic designer, your video guys, may need something that is more of a $4,000, $5,000 laptop or a desktop. So you sort of even that out accordingly, but I've just said an average of $2,500 roughly for that. And of course, these figures have to be approved. So some companies may not allow for such an expensive laptop or desktop to be purchased. It may need to be less. So you'll have to work with your teams to identify, well, what is the correct amount that we want to be spending, okay? And that's all the total CapEx down the bottom. And then my total IT budget, which is just going to come in at over $1 million, for example. But of course, this will be very catered to the IT budget that you are looking after. If you're working in a specific role, if you're, say, the IT infrastructure manager or the IT service delivery manager, they're going to be different because the infrastructure manager won't have things such as laptops or desktops or printers or things like that. They're going to be now more server networking based, more infrastructure based, while the help desk manager may be more focused now on the end user, and they will not have servers and networking equipment in their budget. So it's all going to be catered. Now, something that I recommend is always keep your IT budget maintained and updated. All right. So even after you have submitted the IT budget and it's been approved or not approved, or you've had to remove certain things, or you've had to add certain things, or you've changed the values in there. Now, remember, this is a budget. You don't have to do actual figures. All right. So if a server is going to cost you $3,000 to buy, let's say, for example, well, $3,000 is a bit cheap. Let's say an $8,000 server, you know, the price is $853. Why don't you just put 10 grand into the budget? You've got a bit of money to use. It's better to put a little bit extra than to be so exact and then find out later, oh no, it's actually more expensive, or I missed that. So it's just an estimation of the figure for the items that you want in there, but you really want everything covered, right? You want everything covered inside the IT budget to cover you. So as I said, make sure that you keep it updated, right? So once you've submitted it, start working on the following year's budget. Do a copy and paste of that budget. And then as the expenses change, as you think, hey, that would be good to do. Hey, that would be good to do. Add it into the budget, because the last thing you want to do is wait till the very end, right before, a month before you submit the budget, and then you've forgotten all these great ideas that you had. The other thing is that your budget sort of works hand in hand with your roadmap. You've got your roadmap drawn up, you've got all these great ideas for your roadmap. Well, now you've gone and presented it and people have gone, yeah, that seems like a good idea. Why don't you be bold and add some of the items in your roadmap into your budget? Then they'll ask you about it. The finance team may say, well, what's this? And you say, well, this is an item that I propose in the board, to the board over my IT roadmap and strategy. They seem like it was a good idea. So you threw it inside the IT budget. Put it in there. It's better that you've got stuff in the IT budget, a bit more in there, and get it taken out, than not putting enough in there and then realizing down the track, well, you can't actually do that now. You're gonna have to wait till the next financial year because you didn't include it in that IT budget.
You know, ultimately, one of the hardest things that I have found is that you can have a really good IT strategy, you can have a good roadmap, you can have a good budget in place, but one of the hardest things is to then deliver on that. Getting it approved is one thing, right? Getting your roadmap approved is one of the biggest challenges ever, right? Because you've got to seek the money, you've got to speak to the right people, to your stakeholders, to the people in the business, to the people outside of the business, your partners, etc. But then who's ultimately paying the bills? Could be the CEO, could be the owner of the business, could be the CFO, the finance people, right? So you've got to get in their ear, speak nicely with them, and then hopefully you've built enough of a rapport where they will give you the funds and they will support you to be able to then go and deliver on your roadmap. But of course, the most important thing here is when you are developing your roadmap, your strategy, that it's in alignment with what the business is trying to do, that your roadmap has been developed not in isolation to what the business is trying to do. If you are clashing, if you're trying to develop stuff in your roadmap that do not match with what the business is trying to do, forget about it. You're in the wrong place, get out of here, or just change your roadmap to make sure that it's in alignment. And then get it delivered. Get it delivered. Your budget is there. The roadmap has been approved. All right, now you gotta put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, and now get it delivered. The amount of times that I've seen roadmaps, projects that are in those roadmaps fail is like they're all over the place. So try to stick to it and then get the right team, get the right funding, and make the thing happen. It's very, very hard work, but it's very, very rewarding when you get to the end of your roadmap and you go, we've been able to achieve a lot in the last 12 years, in the last 3, in the last 5 years. But hey, this is just the start. You're gonna get better and better as you go through your tech leadership journey. Subscribe, click on the button on the bell. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Emilio. I love tech, and we'll see you on the next video.